Some friendships do not end with betrayal. They end with a series of ordinary messages. We need to catch up. Definitely. This month is just crazy. How about the second weekend? I can't, but soon. Then, birthdays become text messages. Important news arrives after everyone else already knows. A person who once had a key to your apartment now needs 3 weeks' notice for coffee. Nobody says the friendship is over. But one day, you realize you have been missing someone who is still in your life. And that can be harder to grieve, because there is no villain. There are only two people who still care about each other, and a friendship built for lives they no longer live. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is WiseMind Stories. At 7:23 on a Wednesday evening, Mara Ellis sat alone at a table set for two. Across from her was a small gift bag containing a silver bracelet and a birthday card she had rewritten twice. The reservation was for 7. At 7:24, her phone lit up. It was June. I am so sorry. Noah is throwing up, Chris is out of town, and I can't find anyone to stay with the kids. I have to cancel. Mara closed her eyes. This was the third attempt at June's birthday dinner. The first had been moved because of a school meeting. The second disappeared when June's father needed a medical appointment. For this one, Mara had changed a client call, paid a reservation deposit, and taken a 40-minute train across the city. She knew June was not inventing a sick child. She also knew she could not sit through another exchange of apologies and new dates. Mara typed, "Of course, family comes first." Then she deleted it. What she sent instead was this: "Maybe we should stop pretending this is still a friendship." The message was marked as read at 7:31. June did not answer that night. At 6:12 the next morning, she wrote 3 words. Maybe you're right. Mara and June had been friends for 21 years. They met during their first week of college, when June locked herself out of her room wearing pajama pants and carrying a bowl of cereal. Mara sat with her in the hallway for an hour, while they waited for someone with a spare key. After that, their friendship seemed to happen automatically. They lived 2 floors apart. They ate in the same dining hall. They studied at the same library table and knew which professors the other one hated. In their 20s, they rented apartments 6 blocks from each other. Sunday morning meant coffee at a diner where the server stopped bringing menus. If Mara had a bad date, June heard about it before Mara got home. When June's first serious relationship ended, she slept on Mara's couch for 9 nights. Neither woman had to ask whether the friendship mattered. Their lives answered for them every day. Then adulthood changed the conditions. June married Chris and moved to a suburb 40 minutes away. She had 2 children and reduced her hours as a physical therapist when her father's health began to decline. Mara became a creative director at a small design firm. She traveled for work, lived alone, and often finished her day when June was beginning bedtime with the children. For a while, they treated every change as temporary. Once Noah started school, things would settle down. After Mara's company finished the rebrand, they would take a trip. When June's father recovered, they would return to Sunday coffee. But life did not return their old schedule. It kept making new ones. Their mistake was not that they changed. It was that they kept asking the old friendship to operate under conditions that no longer existed. Mara proposed dinners downtown at 7 because that was where they used to meet. June usually said yes, then spent the week arranging school pickup, dinner, homework, and childcare. By the time the evening arrived, one small disruption could collapse the plan. June invited Mara to soccer games, school fundraisers, and noisy Sunday lunches with the children. Mara sometimes went, but she left feeling as if she had spent 2 hours near June without speaking to her. They each remembered the occasions when they had tried. June brought both children to the opening of Mara's first major design exhibition. She arrived late, walked through half the room, and left when her daughter began crying. Mara remembered watching June disappear through the door before the speeches. June remembered changing two children's clothes in a parking garage, driving through traffic, and standing in an art gallery while her son repeatedly asked when they could eat. To Mara, June had barely come. To June, she had moved an entire household to be there. Months later, Mara attended Noah's school performance after an important client meeting. She slipped into the back row during the final song and left early to finish a deadline. June remembered the empty seat beside her. Mara remembered running 6 blocks from the train so she would not miss everything. Both women were making effort. Neither could see the effort clearly because it did not arrive in the form she needed. That is how resentment can grow between people who still care. You judge the love you receive by its result. The other person judges it by what it costs them to offer. Soon, neither woman was making invitations. They were setting tests. When Mara chose an expensive restaurant on a weeknight, the hidden question was, will you make me a priority for once? When June invited Mara to a 10-year-old's birthday party, the hidden question was, can you love the life I actually have now? Every declined invitation became an answer neither woman had intended to give. This is one of the quiet reasons adult friendships fade. The calendar is rarely just a calendar. Underneath it, two people are often asking, do I still matter to you? And because asking that directly feels vulnerable, they measure love through attendance, response time, who called last, and how much inconvenience the other person is willing to absorb. The friendship becomes an audit. History is entered on one side of the page, recent disappointments are entered on the other. Nobody feels close while keeping score. For 13 days after June's message, neither woman reached out. Mara told herself she was finally accepting reality. But acceptance did not feel peaceful. It felt like opening her phone several times a day and refusing to type June's name. She replayed old resentments. June had missed Mara's promotion dinner. Mara had learned about June's father's surgery from someone else. On Mara's last birthday, June mailed a gift but did not call until the next morning. The evidence made Mara feel briefly powerful. Then she found an old photograph of herself and June sitting on the floor of their first apartment, eating takeout from a cardboard box. She remembered the night her mother died. June had driven through a snowstorm and stayed for 4 days. She cooked food, neither of them ate. She answered the door. She slept in a chair beside Mara when the bed felt too large. That woman had not disappeared. But she was no longer available in the same way. Those are different losses. One is the loss of care. The other is the loss of a familiar form. If you confuse them, you may destroy something meaningful because it no longer looks the way it did at 25. Adult friendship changes because 3 conditions keep changing: proximity, timing, and energy. Proximity is how often your lives naturally place you near each other. Timing is whether your current responsibilities and seasons overlap. Energy is the quality of connection when you do meet, whether the friendship still feels mutual, safe, and alive. Mara and June had once possessed all 3 without effort. Now, proximity was weak. Their timing rarely matched. The energy was buried beneath guilt and expectation. Mara had interpreted those changing conditions as a personal verdict. If June valued me, she would find a way. June had her own version. If Mara understood me, she would stop asking me to live like I do not have children. Both statements contained a need. Neither created a new friendship. This is where the first half of the framework matters. Let them. Let June's life be full in ways Mara did not choose. Let her children and father require more of her right now. Let her have local friends who could meet during school hours. Let her become someone who no longer wanted to stay out until midnight. And let Mara want uninterrupted conversation, travel, and plans that did not revolve around children. Let both women change without making either life an insult to the other. Let them does not mean declaring that effort no longer matters. It means releasing the demand that a person prove their love by becoming a previous version of themselves. But flexibility is only half the work. The second half is not, let me wait and see if they care. It is, let me go first. Let me name what changed without assigning blame. Let me say what I miss instead of designing another test. Let me propose something small enough to be real. Let me make one honest effort, then pay attention to whether the relationship can meet me there. On the 14th day, Mara sent June a voice message. What I wrote at the restaurant was cruel, she said. I was hurt, but I turned the cancellation into a verdict on our entire friendship. I'm sorry. She paused before continuing. I don't think our old dinners work anymore. I also don't want to lose you while pretending they still do. I'll be near your neighborhood Friday afternoon. Would you have 20 minutes for a walk? No dinner, no gift, no birthday rescue? June replied, 2 hours later. Yes, and I'm sorry too. Friday was cold and windy. June arrived 7 minutes late, pushing Noah's old scooter because her younger daughter had refused to leave it at home. The first few minutes were awkward. Then June said, when you sent that message, part of me was furious. Another part was relieved. Relieved? I've been failing at being your friend for 2 years. Every time I cancel, I feel ashamed. Then I avoid you because I don't want to apologize again. Mara looked at her. I thought you stopped caring. I thought you hated my life. Neither belief was entirely true. Neither was entirely invented. Mara did resent that every conversation was interrupted. June did sometimes assume Mara's schedule mattered less because she did not have children. They said those things aloud. Not to determine who had been the worse friend, but to identify what the new friendship would have to stop pretending. They walked for 32 minutes. It was not Sunday coffee at the diner. It did not repair 2 years of disappointment. But it was the first meeting in a long time that had not been built as proof. They agreed to try something less impressive. On the first Monday of each month, one of them would send a 10-minute voice message. If they wanted to meet, they would offer a real date, instead of saying, we should get together. Mara would sometimes come to June's neighborhood. June would stop agreeing to evening plans she was unlikely to keep. The system did not work perfectly. June forgot the second month. Mara listened to one message and waited 9 days to answer. They went almost 8 weeks without seeing each other. But something changed. The silence no longer automatically meant rejection. 3 months later, June had an appointment downtown. She texted Mara with 90 minutes notice. I have 25 minutes before my train. Coffee? Mara was in a meeting. She could not go. For once, the missed opportunity did not become evidence. June had gone first. The friendship was still alive. It was simply living at a different volume. Not every fading friendship can or should be rebuilt. Sometimes the energy has changed because your values no longer match. Sometimes a person contacts you only when they need something. Sometimes repeated disrespect has replaced ordinary distance. Flexible friendship is not endless tolerance. No framework requires you to stay available for cruelty, manipulation, abuse, or a relationship that repeatedly neglects your basic dignity. And let me go first does not mean let me chase forever. Going first is an honest offer, not a lifelong assignment. If you initiate, communicate clearly, and make realistic room, and the other person repeatedly offers no curiosity, care, or effort, You have learned something important. Let them show you their current capacity. Let me choose how much energy I continue to invest. You do not need to punish them. You do not need to rewrite the good years as fake. You can appreciate what a friendship was and stop demanding that it remain your closest relationship forever. But before you hold a funeral for a friendship that may only need a new form, ask 4 questions. First, what actually changed? Was it proximity, timing, energy, or a genuine loss of care and respect? Second, what am I making the change mean about me? Distance may be painful without being personal. Third, what kind of friendship is realistically possible now? Maybe it is a monthly walk, an occasional voice message, 1 trip a year, or affection without frequent contact. Fourth, what is one small, concrete way I can go first? Send the message, offer the date, tell the truth, make the plan fit the lives you actually have. Then watch what happens without turning the offer into a secret test. A friendship does not have to look the same to remain real. And sometimes loving a friend means allowing the relationship to breathe instead of gripping it until it breaks. Let them change. Let me meet reality with honesty, flexibility, and self-respect. There is another kind of relationship, though, where accepting reality feels almost impossible. Someone you love is making choices that are damaging their health, work, future, or family. You can see what needs to change. You explain, push, remind, threaten, and rescue, but nothing works. What happens when going first is not enough because you are trying to make another person become ready? That is where our next story begins.